Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever your time zone, welcome. This is Digital Transformation Talk, and I am your host, Kevin Crane. Welcome to the show. Today we'll be exploring ways to empower AI agents to drive business processes at scale. Now, surveys reveal that the majority of executives, over 70%, anticipate that AI agents will soon be essential in enhancing workflow automation, and 65% of those believe that agents will improve customer service and satisfaction. As a result, AI agents, or the AI agents market, is predicted to grow to nearly $50 billion in the next 5 years. As organizations increasingly recognize the potential of AI agents, it is clear that strategies that empower these agents to drive business processes at scale is essential for success. But how do you do it? Well, in this session, we'll explore three areas to consider. First, we'll work to identify the barriers that prevent small AI prototypes from succeeding at an enterprise level. We'll explore the challenges that often hinder prototypes from scaling and achieving lasting impact. Next, we'll explore how AI transparency is keeping businesses and IT teams aligned and accountable. We'll discuss how AI transparency can foster collaboration between business and IT teams, ensuring that both are on the same page and accountable for AI's performance. And finally, we'll consider ways to future-proof your organization as you integrate AI agents and delve into strategies for ensuring that your organization is ready to adapt and thrive as AI continues to evolve. So by the end of this session, I hope that you'll have some valuable insights into effectively implementing AI at scale and to prepare your organization for an AI-driven future. We have some great guests with us today, but first I want to say thank you for everyone joining us today, and that includes the folks that are joining us live on LinkedIn. Hello, and hello to everyone joining us today on Zoom. Thank you. During today's discussion, we want to hear from you too, so I want to encourage everyone attending today to participate. Join in with your comments in the chat section, and if you have a question along the way, just jump on in. I will attempt to get some of your questions into the flow of the show, and we'll have a few minutes also at the end for your questions. All right, let's get to our great panel of guests today, starting with Ayman Hussain, Customer Engineering Leader at Google. Ayman, are you with us?
Yes, I am here, Kevin. It's great to be here again, talking some things that are very passionate with me, AI and the automation that goes with it. So very excited about our topic and continuing to hear all the other panelists and what the community is looking at.
Wonderful. Ayman, where are you calling in from?
I'm calling in from Houston, Texas today, where it is about 10 a.m. today in the morning, but otherwise nice and sunny.
Wonderful. Houston, Texas. Thank you, Ayman, for being with us. Also with us today is Christian Hull, Chief Technology Officer at Tax Canary. Christian, are you with us?
I am indeed. Hello.
Hello, Christian. It's great to have you on today. Where are you calling in from today?
I'm calling in from London. Well, maybe south of London to be fair, but yeah, London, UK.
All right. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Christian, for being with us. And also with us is Sathya Sethuraman, Field CTO at Camunda. Sathya, where are you calling in from today?
Hi, Kevin. Nice to join here. I'm calling in from Austin, Texas.
Ah, we have two Texas representations today, so wonderful. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for being with us today. I would like to start our discussion today by drawing our attention to an article published recently by Business Reporter that highlights the importance of process orchestration, a strategy that unifies systems, legacy, tech, AI, human, into a seamless end-to-end process. And this can dramatically improve scalability, efficiency, and collaboration between IT teams and business teams. Many believe that embracing orchestration is essential for leveraging AI effectively and maintaining competitiveness in our rapidly evolving business and technology landscape. I'd like to get your take on this article, folks. Sathya, I'd like to start with you, if I may. What are your thoughts on the article? Does it miss anything important?
Uh, the article covers three things, if I can just make it concise without sending this to ChatGPT. The summary is that we start with a customer journey first, look at the customer centricity, and then the second layer of end-to-end process optimization. When we deliver customer experience, we should also look at the cost optimization that every company need to do, and underlying that, how you can use the the RPA sort of siloed automation, number one, and also embedding AI. But thinking from that end-to-end standpoint can actually boost customer experience and boost productivity and efficiency, while also helping to enhance and expand the benefits of the siloed automation as well as the AI and machine learning that are actually embedded into that end-to-end workflow. So that's a holistic view that
Mm.
we get from, at least I get from that article.
All right. Thank you for that summary, Sathya. And Christian, what are your thoughts on the article? What do you think about this unification strategy? Is it something that we should all be looking into as we design our approaches?
Yeah, 100%. I'm very pragmatic about these things. So when I used to be at BNY Mellon, I was the head of innovation there, and my job was to bring in new technologies and try to find the right homes for them. And in fact, we were a big user of Commander, so well done, Satya, good product. The challenge we had with workflow and low code essentially. So there's a revolution in low code, and it's been part of a gradual democratization of technology, which is great. It used to be, when I started my career, if you wanted something changed, you had to raise a ticket, you had to raise a change request, that got prioritized or not. You ended up being a political beast just to get anything done, and it took forever. And then, the outcome was suboptimal anyway, because the people who were doing the change didn't understand what you were talking about, and it's horrible. It's pre-agile, pre all sorts of things. The ability to make changes moved closer and closer and closer into the business, which is fantastic, and AI is empowering that at great speed. But there are challenges. If you look at a mature technology team, they follow ITIL, practices. They've got all of this, SDLC rules in place. There's gates, there's checkpoints, there's governance all over the place. There's code reviews, there's all this stuff. None of that is there for fun. No one's going to claim that any of what I described was fun, because it's not, but it is essential. So I think, what I'm really loving about this generation of workflow is, yes, we're democratizing it, but at the same time, the governance is following, so it's like it's a two-horse race. They're both running along at the same time, which is brilliant. That works. Because if you don't have the governance, well-meaning people will create crazy things that they think are right. They will literally break the law with well-meaning, and I've seen it. I've literally seen people create things in VBA because they could, and they're like, yeah, this is awesome, it does this. And then one of our lawyers found out, and they're like, can we just stop that? Because that breaches this obscure accounting rule that nobody knew about, or whatever. It's the kind of stuff. Once you have orchestration, it allows you. Without orchestration, you are just creating the most diabolical technical risk you will ever have, and you're putting your whole business at risk. So if you want democratization, you have to have orchestration. So I love it. Yeah, love it.
Now, Eamon, we've heard the term process orchestration in the past. What does it mean to you? You're a customer engineering leader at Google. What does it mean to you, especially with respect to the way that it can orchestrate our efforts with AI adoption?
Absolutely. So you mentioned that automation has been around for a long time. We've been doing it from a very early industrial 1.0 mindset, right? What has been added here is the ability for us not to have to know all the outcomes. For example, in traditional automation, if this happens, do this. So you as a human have to know that something will happen. And I obviously live in Texas. Satya does as well. There's a lot of oil and gas. And oil and gas does unpredictability. But what we do is we predict an outcome and hope that the automation will mitigate that outcome. With the onset of AI, you don't have to have that outcome understood ahead of time. So you're not providing a framework of here are all the outcomes. If you see this, do this. And if you don't see it, don't do that, right? With AI, you're now injecting the ability for the AI model to ask itself questions to say, hey, I'm seeing something that hasn't happened before. What kind of data do I have to come up with an extra answer that will now create service for that capability? So what AI is doing is injecting this ability for us to take automation to the next level of capability. Because you've seen those pictures or graphics where a factory floor boxes are falling off the conveyor belt because somebody forgot that there's an outcome that would stop that from happening. So instead of the conveyor belt stopping, the box is just flying off, and the factory workers are scrambling to stop the machine. Imagine AI will say, "Hey, I see boxes on the floor, therefore something's not right with the conveyor belt. Let me stop it," instead of having that activity pre-programmed in a way that you know about it. But going back to the article, one of the things I want to point out is, first of all, it's a well-written article, but there's four things that I noticed that we need to kind of address in the context of what AI is going to need. First of all, oversimplification of the integration. It's not out of the box ready. I think, Christian, you kind of alluded to it. This is oversimplified. Everybody's talking about AI and automation and RPA plus AI. Oversimplification of the integration is misused here. The integration is going to be complex and painful. So anybody that thinks it's going to be out of box ready needs to rethink. The other one that I don't appreciate is the all-in-one AI. I'm like, this does not, it's not all in one. The narrative is very focused on the fact that you have to have the right tool for the right job. This is not gonna, AI automation takes care of it. Cost and complexity is a big part of this conversation. There's a reason the adoption is going to stagger is because cost and complexity is high. And then the fear factor of, is my job going to go away with this capability, the augmentation of humanity? So when I think of what AI in the current version of automation is going to do, is going to take the error part of it. For example, humans are prone to error, and programming is also prone to error. AI is going to actually simplify that. So it's going to actually enhance our ability. But in the long run, the complexity of it is going to grow steeper, so cost will go up. And so leaders like Christian, who is trying to decide on financial matters of why AI should be implemented in that level, may decide not to because it's going to be too expensive. It's going to be too complex. And then there's a fear factor, obviously, like, am I going to augment humans with machines? I personally don't subscribe to that, but there's going to be certain roles and capabilities that will dissipate over time.
The article is published by Business Reporter. It's called Future Proof Your Automation, Incorporating AI and Intelligent Automation Without Disconnects. There is a link here in the chat feature on Zoom. If you'd like to take a look at that article, folks, we'd like to hear from you too. What are your thoughts on the article? Is this mirroring what your organization is about and doing? Did the article miss anything important that we should also consider? But anyway, interesting that we should be looking at process orchestration perhaps in a new way now that we are integrating AI into our systems. All right, very good. Well, gentlemen, I'd like to move us on to our discussion points today. Our first discussion point is identifying the barriers that prevent small AI prototypes from succeeding at an enterprise level. This is an important topic. A significant challenge in scaling AI projects is the transition from a pilot phase to full scale implementation. Studies from NTT Data and others indicate that 70 to 90% of AI pilots fail to reach production, often due to technical hurdles and organizational barriers, and generally loss of momentum. Satya, what are some of the most common obstacles that small AI prototypes face when trying to scale within larger organizations, and what should we do about it?
Ah, uh, Kevin, it's very interesting. I would little bit reshape this question not only from the prototyping and staying small. Even I would like to give more examples of even the scaled AI projects have actually failed because of what both Christian and Eamon touched upon. Eamon actually provided that conveyor belt analogy. Let me start there. So many times the companies start AI program, and as you rightly said, there are programs, there are AI that does not scale, that fall short, because these are all more like the buzzword that the executives may pick up, come home, and start something. The smaller ones, examples that I can talk about are, yeah, US dealer, car dealer, that has actually, uh, a GPT-enabled chatbot that was rolled out. Actually, the customers came and started manipulating by giving prompts, and suddenly a hacker was able to trick it into selling a 2024 Chevrolet Tahoe which was like $76,000 to $1, right? These are the smaller ones that we can think about. And also, there is an international airline where the AI chatbot mistakenly advised a passenger about the bereavement fare that led into the legal claims. These are all small instances. If we go into the larger instances, in American multinational fast food chain, where the AI experiment was ended after the drive-through ordering blunders and debacle, right? And if I go further extent, this is not even with respect to generative AI. This is even, the old way of looking at AI, ML algorithms. The American tech real estate marketplace company that wrote down millions of dollars, slashed thousands of workforce because the ML algorithm of led into a home buying disaster, losses, right? Because the error in predicting the home prices. So these are some of the things, and this includes the class action lawsuit against a U.S. health insurer in 2023, where they alleged that 90% error rates actually that was leading to the patients prematurely discharged from the care facilities or need to pay higher out-of-pocket expenses. So if you look at this and coming to the conveyor belt analogy, three things that we can derive. One from the data silos, still there is garbage in, garbage out. That old analogy fits into the new paradigm shift, right? The second thing is integration cost. So that is where the extension of the conveyor belt analogy, where integrations are not going to be that easy because you still need to have those legacy systems, legacy processes, incrementally improve upon it, though there is this beautiful AI is coming to place. And most importantly, the governance shortfall. When AI credit scoring in financial services must comply with the fairness law, and we all know that when one of the credit card providers, a neo credit card providers, went into a debacle of a male who got a better credit for the same credit rating versus his wife got a lesser credit, and that went to a debacle, right? So should be a very big governance that should be in place. So data silos, integration cost, and governance shortfall not only prevent the scale at which the AI can be actually deployed in the organization, but even in scaled organization, it can create the conveyor belt effect, what Ayman mentioned right now.
Now, Christian, I was shocked to find that studies indicate that 70 to 90% of AI pilots fail to reach full production. What strategies do you suggest that businesses can use to implement and ensure that their prototypes are scalable and can integrate seamlessly at an enterprise level? What do you recommend?
I want to be slightly contrary here. In a weird way, I want to celebrate that 70% are failing, because failing fast is great. And the thing with with Gen AI now is I can build and prototype something for such a small amount of money that it's just basically free. And if it fails, good. That saved me a lot of money. That's a good thing. Failure, there is a paradigm that failure is always bad. That's completely false. I'm an innovation guy. I was the head of innovation. Like I'm passionate about that failure is not always bad. Failure after 10 years of development, now that's bad. But failure after 1 month of, 3 guys kicking things around on the side of their desk, brilliant, good. So yeah, it's that the numbers maybe not as scary as you think, but yeah, getting back to the kind of the ones which we would have liked to go forward. What goes wrong? Naivety, honestly, is pretty much it. And I've dealt with this, my whole career. I've been in change management for over 20 years. And I look back and I look at myself and kind of with shame and go, look at the bad things I used to do in the past because I didn't know any better. But then I learned the hard way. I've got the scars to prove it. And you learn about coding standards. You learn about why governance matters and all this kind of stuff. And it's boring and it's not fun, but it's so essential to be able to build something. I worked in financial services, which is the most regulated industry out there. Practically, there might be others at the same, but no one beats us. so we were used to it. It was part of the culture. So, a lot of but you'd see, bright people coming up with, they get their hands on Power Automate or something like that, and they build something like, hey, this is really cool, but no one really understood what it was doing. And they tried to use it, and if they, well, we'd stop them from using it, to be honest. But if they tried to use it, it would have been a problem because we didn't really understand it. And you can't, in a regulated industry, you just can't do that. But in a non-regulated industry, you shouldn't do that. It's like you can, but you bloody well shouldn't. For the same reasons that you can't do it in a regulated industry. The regulations are there to protect everyone. So the technology is there. What organizations need to do is they need to stop thinking about the business and the technology as silos. That is 1990s thinking, frankly. It's like, move on. You want to rethink your organization's product centric. So you build around your product, and you have your business people, you have your IT people, you have everything you need for your product working together. That breaks those silos down. So those behaviors from technology about good governance come in. Those behaviors from risk and compliance come in. They're all, because you're all part of the same team. And those behaviors from the client-facing people, the product people who are passionate about, the customer centricity, they come in. Bring all that together. There's nothing more you could ever want. That's what you need. So, then low code, commander type technologies, AI, Gen AI, allowing you to quickly prototype and then scale is possible, because the technology isn't stopping you from scaling. It's not a tech problem. It's a business problem. It's a governance problem. And I going back to conversation I was having, I remember when this journey started, I was advocating like, hey, we need to democratize this. We need to get this technology out. And I remember talking to one of our CIOs and having a very heated discussion. There were like two CIOs and me, and we were, just kicking this idea around, and me kind of going, hey, we need to innovate. This is what we need to be using. And one of them, his argument was basically, I don't trust our users, and I will do everything in my power to block this.
Mm.
And you could sympathize with his position. I didn't agree with his position, by the way, but I could sympathize. I know where he's coming from. The answer isn't to block it. The answer is to say, okay, what could our users do wrong? And then build appropriate process around that. And then to think about, how do you do it frictionless? How do you minimize that? How do you optimize that? How do you build workflows? And, there's a whole science around it, ML ops.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got DevOps, which is what developers build, but you take that same concept, bring it into the ML AI space, and you've got ML ops, where you just have an operational process to operationalize any new model. And it doesn't matter if it's built by Bob in sales or it's built by Sanjay in the dev team. Who cares? It's the same process.
Now, Eamon, what's your take on this high failure rate of AI pilots? The article mentions certainly technical hurdles, but also organizational barriers, also really loss of momentum. So from your point of view, how do organizational culture and existing process ownership impact the ability of AI prototypes to transition from pilot to full deployment?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a couple of thoughts on that, right? One of the biggest challenges coming from the enterprise side is the data and the accuracy of the data. I'm like, you have a lot of pundits in the AI world saying that we have trained out everything we can with the data that's available. That is true probably on the public side. But on the private side, all these organizations and companies have amazing amount of data. Some of them are unstructured, some of them too structured, some of them just locked in a vault that no one gets access to. So when you think of these failures of AI in these adoption in the enterprise scale, what's happening is they're not moving with the complete end-to-end idea of the data possible in this context. And some of them are naysayers saying that you don't need that data. What do you want historical data of people that are retired and left the workforce? You don't know. Why would you want that, or why would you not want that? If you're a trader and you're doing day trades, you want historical information of all the trades since the day the financial markets opened a couple hundred years ago, because you want to see patterns and trends, and then you bolt on top of it like weather data or war data or economic challenges, so you can get a good precise understanding of what the modeling looks like. Same with AI adoption and enterprise scale. You have to put all the data in there, and a good data scientist will determine if it's required required. Now, if, I'm biased towards Google. In the context of Google today, we have this ability for you to use their tools with natural language capability to not even be a data scientist. You can just basically talk about it. Say, hey, what does this data set do? Can you tell me if this data set is going to be useful in this data set? So if you're trying to do AI automation and AI adoption, you have to democratize the data, obviously with some guardrails, like Christian mentioned. You want security, you want governance, you want some ability to say this is within the lines of the law. But if you don't allow even the visual inspection of that context, you will never be able to get there. And that's where the failure is happening. We start off with it, costs go high because the data is too expensive, the solutions are too expensive, or the reward or the ROI is missing. Like, hey, fine, I got 5 more defects out of this machine using AI, but that doesn't justify millions of dollars of spend, because those 5 defects could have been a returned product from the consumer, and that would have been easily or cheaper to manage and maintain, right? So if you think of it that way, that's what it is. The ROI has to be sufficiently endorsed by the data. And so I advocate as a technologist that democratization and access for data before you jump into it head first. Even if you feel like you don't need all the data, in some contexts you do.
This is Digital Transformation Talk, and we are here today with Ayman Hussein from Google, Christian Hull from Tax Canary, and Satya Sethuraman from Camunda, and we're talking about empowering AI agents to drive business processes at scale. If you have a question or a comment for our panel, just pop it into the chat feature, and we'll attempt to get some questions and comments into the flow of our discussion, and we'll have a few minutes also at the end. Now, gentlemen, I'd like to move us on to our second discussion point today, and that is about AI transparency and keeping businesses and IT teams aligned and accountable. Transparency in AI development is crucial for aligning business and IT teams. However, a Stanford study recently revealed that the average transparency score among major AI companies was only 37 out of 100, highlighting significant room for improvement in fostering alignment and accountability. Satya, how can businesses foster this transparency in AI development to ensure that both business and IT teams are aligned on the goals and expectations?
Yeah, you are spot on in your question itself, Kevin. The 37% transparency that we get are mostly when it comes to some examples I could see is where the business already understand the applicability of AI and they have an hands-on experience. Here are some examples. Actuaries in an insurance company or the financial analyst who do how they are living running those models, or the heavy users where there is a transparency between business and technology because the business develops the models, like Monte Carlo analysis in terms of the AI model that the actuaries develop, but they exactly provide the requirement for the technology team to provide the requested data and the integration point. So they come together and develop that. So this is a success story, 37%. The others where they fail is that where there is always a sort of lack of trust or lack of the I would call it as lack of respect for the each other, because business thinks that technology could not understand the business. So I will just give a small requirement to go and roll out this. Whereas technology thinks that, okay, business does not acquire, know the technology, and that lack of trust and lack of respect creates that friction. Because this is very honest, feedback that I used to get. Where I have seen that we can take from that 37% success and apply it here, if I can give a public example, is that in terms of Wix. Wix is the website where we can go and create, the businesses can go and create their own website. What they have done when embedding the technology is they went to the business users, which are all the small, medium businesses that started creating website and got their requirement, but started collaborating with them by providing them out of the box integrations, out of the box data, out of the box, what they call it as widgets, to the business, where the business can go and start designing their website, but ultimately they use the data and integration that is already provided by technology to start with. And then if there are additional integration points or data that is required, they can seamlessly raise those requests to the technology team, come together, collaborate together, start customizing those websites and rolling it out. That sort of collaboration, I've seen that that's possible with the Camunda or the orchestration platforms, because on one side, this sort of low code, what Christian alluded to, the low code platforms provide business to chart out that customer journey and also the underlying process, and sit with the technology team in defining all the business rules, the integration endpoints, and also the data that are required, hand it over to technology so that they can start from where the business handed it over and start rolling out and developing, testing, and deploying that platform. So this is the seamless thing that has worked out, and it's the exact same thing that needs to be applied for AI as well, where the business that's the customer journey design, the business outcome seamlessly hands it over to the technology team with a futuristic vision and where they can pick up and then start implementing and iteratively circling with the business in closed loop.
Now, Christian, we're here talking about AI transparency, really keeping business and IT teams aligned and accountable. AI transparency, to me, this sounds really more like just like not just, but change management. You mentioned change management earlier. What are some techniques that I can use as a team leader to ensure that my teams have accountability and collaboration between each other during AI projects? Are there some specific team-based strategies that you can suggest?
Oi, big subject. Yes, there are. I'd say probably anyone who wants to look into this, just Google ML ops, because that's the umbrella term that we're talking about. But you want, at a basic level, every AI model that you use or want to use, you should log it. You want multidisciplinary teams who have oversight of your AI project. So, yeah, you've got your business people, they're the sponsors, they're the people who want something done for whatever, might be operational, might be client facing, whatever it is, who knows, almost doesn't matter. But you've got the data owner. So what data, Eamon's been talking a lot about data, and I love that because, without data, AI is nothing, doesn't work. So, but your data owner is, if you have, and I do say if you have good data governance, because bless the companies that don't, but oh my God, please start doing that. But if you have good data governance, then you do have a data owner. The data owner is the person who knows the most about that data set. They know the confidentiality issues. They know, that there's a null in that field and that means something. It's not just that they forgot to put something in. Talk to them, because your data scientists, they're also going to be part of this, thing. When they're working with the data, they need to understand what it means. And AI is just going to pop out probabilities. That's what it does. You put data in, it spits out probabilities, and depending on what model you use, it will spit out different kinds of things. But the whole garbage in, garbage out, but ignorance in, ignorance out is the same kind of logic. So you've got to understand your data. So you want your data owners, you want your risk people, you want your technology people. They're managing the stack. They need to understand what's the compute impact of this. If you build something crazy, potentially when you look at some of the new models, and if you're into the Gen AI LLM space, and if you're using the high-end ones, the token cost, as in like the cost of compute to answer these questions, can be insanely high. I mean, I love this story. It's a quick one, promise, to illustrate the point. So the latest open AI model that's I don't think it's even public yet. It's in kind of in a research release. So the O3 model, they submitted that to the ARC Prize. So the ARC Prize is one of the toughest AI model tests out there, and essentially it's a bunch of logic tests that any of the four of us will be able to get 100% on, because we're humans and we can do the logic and we can understand it. Early models would get like 3-4%. They were terrible at it, and that was mostly luck. Good models are now getting around 30%. The latest, greatest, best one got an amazing, like 70-80%, I forget it was. But that was, the deep reasoning model with all the guardrails taken off. It's just like, you go to town, you spend as long as you want on it. And it did, so they ran it in a constrained model, and it got sort of 50-something%, which is still amazing. And then they ran it in the unconstrained one. The unconstrained one, the token cost in dollars was $6,777 to answer one question. That is mind-blowing. Because you go, yeah, wow, it's almost as good as a graduate. But I can guarantee graduates don't charge $6,777 to answer one question. So, I forget who it was who said it earlier. There is a real consideration about the cost of some of these things. Yes, you can build it. Yes, it will work. And to me, this was actually what killed RPA back in the day. So, robotic process automation, just too damn expensive to run. It didn't cover the costs, which is a problem. But yeah, going back to what you're saying, ML ops, bring together the right people. And the last person you want to bring in is a process engineer. Because all of these people think that they're guardians, and as guardians, they think their job is to stop the train. Wrong. Their job is to make the train go to the right station as fast as possible, but they never understand it. So you need someone who's really good at workflow to kind of go, yeah, you guys have all got a job. How do we optimize it so that these projects are approved or not fast? Because big tech is doing that. I'm sure Google is doing that. You're processing amazing change incredibly fast. But the big enterprise world I come from, oh my God, they love to kill with governance.
Now, Eamon, we have a question coming in from our audience. I'm hoping you can help me with. Eamon, this question's coming in from LinkedIn. Thank you so much for jumping in. Here's the question. What are the best practices to make autonomous AI agents decision-making explainable to business stakeholders without overwhelming them with technical jargon? Eamon, can you help us with this?
Yeah, I appreciate that question. I think it's a very relevant question in today's leadership circles. There are a couple of, in my mind, oxymorons in that conversation of the words autonomous AI agents. In my mind, they don't resonate. And let me explain what I mean by that. An agent, agentic AI, essentially is the ability for you to train a bunch of tasks something would do based on the environment it receives. For example, today's agents can open up a web page, maybe check in for your flight if you wanted to do that. But you would say, this is what I want you to do using natural language interface or using training that would say, go do that. The autonomous part of that is essentially the fact that it's watching for an activity. And so when you want to talk to a leader about what does autonomous AI agent means, let's drill it down to simple tasks that humans do today. For example, you're an insurer, you got a claim that you got to look at that came through paper mail. So it shows up. The first thing people used to do, and I know Satya and Christian, you've seen it, would scan that, make it an OCR, it gets PDF'd, and then something would scan through it. There's a lot of steps there. That the autonomous part and in the automation of that agentic AI would be the mailroom person tears open the envelopes, puts it in a scanner, the scanner scans it, and then does a whole bunch of things based on the kind of form it is. You don't have to train the form. You just say, hey, it looks like a form with a claim, looks like a denial, looks like a junk mail, whatever it is. That's the autonomous part. You're essentially training based on models that have been invented by the great minds like Google's or the Metas, and using data that's already available. So how would that form reader know that's junk mail versus a real form? It's because you trained it with the data. So autonomous part is really scheduling and getting it into place where it's always available to do certain tasks. No different than your home camera for security. It has a little box. It sees it's a dog, it's a pet, but it was trained. But once it's done training, it now knows what's a dog or a pet or a squirrel or porch pirate stealing your box. That's what it is. So when I talk to executives, I'm talking about tasks that you need humans for or needed machines to do human work through the machine that now can be simplified to augment simplicity. So scaling, like call centers. You can't hire that N+1 call center call taker. You can use autonomous agents to do a lot of that. So that's the way I would explain that conversation. Use case examples. If you're in an industry where there is a possibility of AI agents, look at the industry use cases. And that's one of the things that article kind of missed was you have to have industry specific examples. It's not AI for all.
Can I quickly jump in on that one? I think it's important to understand what automation means. So I spent most of my career automating things, and the technology has got better and better. I only dreamed the technology today was available at the beginning of my career because it would have saved me a lot of time. But so if you think of a transaction flow, it doesn't matter what, sales transaction or whatever, most of that is automated these days, you'd hope. But yet we still have all these staff kicking around doing things. So it's obviously not all automated. So what's going on? So if you think of your transaction flow, it's going STP, and it hits a point where there is a decision that needs to be made that is difficult to describe in Boolean rules. Because if you could describe it in Boolean rules, we'd have programmed it a long time ago. That's easy coding. We know how to do that. You know, if it's red, we put it there. If it's blue, we put it there. You could have coded that. Every time you hit one of those, we put humans in. That's it. That's what all the humans are doing. They're making fine granular decisions. They're making probabilistic decisions because we never had a technology that could do that. You know, and I have foolishly tried to build logic tables that can answer this stuff, and you can kind of do it.
Okay.
But you end up with gargantuan tables which are very, very finely tuned, and you can't hand the project over to anyone else because nobody understands what you just did.
Right.
So it doesn't work. AI is the only technology. It's the technology that, you know, has become available that allows us to now bring technology to another part of the workflow. So, you know, all the various technologies that we've grown up with have been bringing in and automating things. You know, when I look back, like reconciliation, I remember people getting sack trolleys with piles of reams of paper delivered to their desk, and they had two highlighters and they were literally doing this. It's a joke now. Nobody would reconcile like that anymore because it's just hilarious. Because obviously you use a computer and it's a really simple formula to do. You're like, boom, done. The world moves on. This is just another stage. So yeah, people are scared of it because it's new, but everything was new once. This is just the latest new.
All right. Well, gentlemen, we are running so short of time. I want to be cognizant of our remaining time. We do have one final discussion point I'd like to get to, and that is future-proofing your organization as we integrate autonomous AI agents. I'd like to ask each of you just for one, the same question. What is one step that our listeners should take today to be prepared for the future impact of autonomous AI agents? Sathya, in our time remaining, what is one thing that they can do?
So one thing they can do is they need to look at the deterministic processes and the probabilistic processes and see that for deterministic processes, they should have a clear rules that will drive the agents. And for non-deterministic or probabilistic processes, the agent actually complements the human. That also provides the AI's decision making, not the agent's decision making, but the AI's decision making. And that provides guardrails, clear guardrails. So the division of deterministic and non-deterministic process, where the business and IT sit together, decide it, put a clear guardrail, and bring the data and integration to drive that entire project with a clear goal in mind, is what people need to take
All
forward.
right. And Christian, what's your take on this? What's one thing that we should be doing today to be prepared for the future impact of autonomous AI
I
agents?
talked about ML ops before, so I'm not going to say that one again, but do that. The other one I'd say is sandboxing. So people need to learn, and learning AI is not easy. People have the craziest wrong ideas about what AI is or isn't. The only, you know, the best way of learning, like, you know, how did every developer learn? They learned by doing. AI is no different. You learn by doing. So create sandboxes where you bring in data that people can play with in a safe environment. There's not a full production environment, and have competitions. Make it fun, make it engaging. And, you know, your organization will evolve rapidly because people will want to get involved, and reward the people who create great stuff, and do not punish the people who fail, because that only shows they were being brave enough to try something. You know, celebrate failures and success. But, you know, if you've got 1% success, brilliant. Those are successes you didn't have before. That's great. But the learning is key.
And Eamon, do you have an action item for us today? What should we be doing
I
today
do.
to future-proof our organization?
Yes, so I will, you know, Kevin, you and I have had many conversations like this. I will go back to the basics. Learn it. It is a consumer and conversation. It's not an enterprise conversation. If you don't know what you're looking at, you don't know what you're doing. So learn it. AI is available for learning in any platform, any capability. Have the initiative to go learn it, because that is what future-proofing the industry and the organization looks like. If you know it, you'll be equally valuable or useful for figuring out if it's the right thing to do. So make the time to go learn it. And another thing I point out there is that AI magic box that you may be thinking is only as smart as the last human that touched it. So keep in mind, it's fallible. It is not end all be all. And you are the human. So go learn it, go figure out what it looks like, and you will make those determinations based on the fact that it either works or it doesn't. And if you don't learn it, you are going to be slower in the way of adoption and you will fall behind. I'm like, this is ubiquitous to people that have been around a while. I think Satya and Christian, we are of a generation.
Yeah.
Email, how that got proliferated in organization. Before that, phones and cell phones. The technology has always changed. So if you don't learn it and if you don't use it, you will fall behind, and enterprise adoption will fall behind, and your competition's doing it, so they will get ahead and you will miss out.
Well, great
Amen.
action items from.
Kevin,
Go ahead,
just
Satya.
one thing,
Please.
if I can put that into my perspective. So, from a AI enthusiast, everyone should become an AI practitioner. Learning actually provides that shift from simply throwing a lot of thoughts and ideas to how practically and pragmatically we can go and implement it. That's awesome, Emin. I really love that perspective.
All right, very good. Some great action items from a great panel of guests. Ayman Hussein, Customer Engineering Leader at Google. Thank you, Ayman, for being with us. Also, Christian Hull, Chief Technology Officer at Tax Canary. Christian, thanks a lot for being with us. And Satya Sathuraman, Field CTO at Camunda. Thank you, Satya, for being with us today. What a great panel of guests. Your perspectives and advice were spot on. Thank you so much. I hope that we get a chance to talk again soon. And to everyone joining us today, thank you too. Join us again next time on Digital Transformation Talk on April 29th with another great panel of guests. We'll be discussing transforming 3D printing from prototyping to production. That should be another great discussion. In the meanwhile, if you'd like to find me, you can do so on LinkedIn. I'm happy to connect there, so check me out. I'm Kevin Crane. And check out my weekly audio podcast, the Digital Transformation Podcast. But for now, that'll do it for this episode of Digital Transformation Talk. And until next time, I am Kevin Crane saying thanks for watching.